What's up, YouTube? I am out here working on my Tacoma today. My 2011 Toyota Tacoma is due for an oil change. The maintenance required light for the oil change indicator has been on for a little bit. I do have full synthetic oil, so I do let it go longer than the typical time period for the engine oil indicator light. That light starts to blink usually at about 4,500 miles since the last time it was reset. And at about 5,000 miles it goes solid. I'm right at 77,000 miles right now, and the last time I did an oil change was at 70,000 miles. So I usually go about 7,000 miles on full synthetic before I do an oil change. But what we're going to do is we'll go through and drain the oil. We'll take the filter out. We're going to replace the filter and then bolt everything back up once the oil's drained out and put new oil filter in. Now this is a 4.0 liter, so it will be different than you guys that have the 2.7. The 4.0 liter takes 5.5 quarts of 5W30, and the 2.7 liter takes, I think, 6 quarts of 0W20. You'll want to look that up to verify for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what that number was that I saw when I was looking up the difference between the two. But this is the 4.0 liter, so it does have a different capacity and viscosity than the 2.7. And so right here is where we're going to refill the oil. So there's the oil filler caps right there, and it actually has 530 written right on it. And then this is where the filter is. Now the filter has this little cup kind of oil catch right here, and on the bottom of it there's a little plug, like a nipple that's on the bottom that's just open. So when you take the filter out, the oil is going to drain and go out the bottom of that. Now you can attach a hose to that. I believe it's probably like a 3/8 inch. You can attach a hose to the bottom and run the hose all the way down through the bottom under the engine so that it drains right into an oil pan. Or what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to fit a empty water bottle between the radiator hose, the lower radiator hose, and that opening where that nipple is, so that the oil just drains down and catches in that empty water bottle. The information for the torque spec and the bolt size for the oil drain pan I'll have as we get to that. That'll be the next thing I'll do, is get up underneath the vehicle and start unplugging things. Now one thing I do just to ensure I don't get any kind of vacuum when I drain the oil is I always go ahead and unscrew, if I can, unscrew the oil filler cap, and I also pull up the dipstick. So the engine oil dipstick is actually all the way over here. It's this yellow one over here. So I just pull that up, and that just makes sure I don't have any vacuum. So hopefully all the oil just kind of easily falls out. Now I wanted to show you real quick. If you look in this cap and you see a foamy white milky type of substance in there, it doesn't necessarily mean you've got blown head gaskets. It could just mean that you don't drive the vehicle long enough for it to get hot. So if you're doing short trips in cold temperature and you start seeing this milky white buildup on the top, it doesn't mean that there's something necessarily wrong with your engine, but it probably means you're just not driving long enough for the engine to get hot. Once the engine gets hot enough, the film that's on here is just kind of a condensed oil that's just collected on the top. And once you run it to where the engine gets hot enough, it'll just the heat gets to it and it'll melt all that off and you won't see it. So I drive enough, even though I usually only use my truck for hunting and hauling. I do drive long enough periods of time that it's not causing that buildup. So just wanted to point that out. I'm going to leave that off. And before I go any further, I just wanted to ask for anybody that's watching the video to please make sure you take the time to like the video and share the video. Getting the video shared and kind of across multiple platforms really helps out, because the most important thing that helps my channel is actually subscribers. And so if you could just subscribe, go down and click that subscribe button real quick. Make sure if you share this video with anybody, just ask them to give a quick subscribe. You can turn on that notification bell, and if I have any other videos that I post to my channel, you'll get a notification for that. For the most part, I do Tacoma stuff. I do some motorcycle stuff. I've got a oil change video for my Avalon that I just recently did. I'll add a video to for my Tacoma to change out the cabin filter sometime soon. And so today we're just doing the oil change. So thank you for all the subscriptions, and let's get started doing the job and get this thing opened up and get all the oil out and get the new oil in. I'll even show you at the end of the video how to reset the notorious maintenance required light that's on the dash that nobody can ever seem to figure out how to reset. So we'll go and do that as well. While I'm up here, just to show you real quick, this is what I'm doing with this to catch the oil in the top here. You can just see right there, that's the opening, the little plug that comes out from the bottom of the pan, or the oil filter catch can, and there's a little hole in the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this empty water bottle and fit it between that lower radiator hose and the plug. So now I've got that water bottle in there, and that's what'll catch what little bit of oil is going to come out of the oil filter when I go to undo the oil filter. Now, if you go ahead and drain the oil first, that's going to help with most of the oil coming out, but whatever oil doesn't come out of the filter, that's what's going to go down in that little catch pan there and down into my empty water bottle. So now I've got my oil pans down here. I've got the socket that's for the bolt for the oil pan. There's the drain plug right here in the middle. So this is the plug that we're taking out. Don't go past this cross member because you're going to get the transmission plug instead. So engine oil drain plug is right here. It's a 14 millimeter. I've got my drain pan set up here. I just bring two down just in case one of these gets really full, and that just helps not make too big of a mess if I can help it. I've got an extension on here just to kind of give me some space so I don't end up busting my knuckles. And so I'm just going to take this bolt off, and that's what's going to drain the oil out. Just making sure my drain pan is right underneath where that bolt's coming out. And I'm going to try to catch this bolt instead of letting it drop into the pan so I don't have to fish it out later. Sometimes it makes a bigger mess on your hands this way, but I'm just going to try to quickly get this out of the way. There we go. Alright, yep, that made a big mess. But oil's draining out now, so that's good. I've got a towel right here so I can just wipe my hands off real quick. Got a plan for that to happen. Got a big piece of cardboard under here, so it really doesn't matter if I make a mess right here. At least it's not going to get on the concrete. Let all the oil drain out until it gets to the point where it's literally just dripping. And then we can get back up top and swap out that, take that oil filter out. So the pan's about 3/4 of the way full now. So I'm going to go ahead and swap the pan. Well, actually it looks like it's kind of slowing down, so I'll probably just let that finish. Now that drain pan bolt is a 14 millimeter, and it also is a, when you put the drain bolt back in, it's got a torque spec on it of 30 foot-pounds. It might be a plus or minus a couple foot-pounds, but got some bugs stuck under here. So we'll just let that oil finish draining. Alright, now let's work on getting this oil filter off while the oil's still draining. So this is not reverse threaded, so you just need to go counterclockwise is loose, or some people say lefty loosey, righty tighty. So clockwise is tight, counterclockwise is loose. So it's just standard, just Need to get this, there we go, get this loosened up, get this filter off. So there was no oil drained out of that, so it all drained down when I drained the oil, so that was kept from making a mess on that. And I'm just going to clean up the surface here, and on the new filter we're gonna, this is the old filter, so on the new filter we're just gonna dab new just kind of a film of new oil on that gasket right there, and then we'll put the filter back on, and then we'll be ready to bolt up the bottom. That oil pan bolt, we'll put that back in, 30 foot-pounds 14mm socket, and then we'll start adding, refilling oil in the filler neck there. So that surface is clean. So the filter that came out is the same one that I'm putting in. This is the part number from STP. So that's the correct one for the 4.0 liter. Can't say it fits the 2.7 liter, sorry. But like I said before, just right here on this gasket, we want to take a little bit of fresh oil. So I've got the 5W30, and this is the synthetic. It's also for high mileage. I'm just over 75,000, but I'm just going to use this now. And same brand, STP. There's a bunch of different brands, and obviously you can argue over what brands are better than the others. A lot of the oils are made by the same companies, just distributed in through different companies. But I just take, I just get some oil on the end of my finger, like that, and that's enough to just run around this gasket here and get this gasket lubed up real good. That's going to create a good sealing surface to the where we took the filter off, and this is ready to go back on. So again, righty-tighty, so just clockwise turn. I'm just turning it until it stops, and then I'm going to go another, you can go another quarter or half a turn. So where this writing is, I'm going to go use that as a reference. From here to here would be a quarter turn, and then from here to here would be a half a turn. So I'm going to do a half a turn. Now that's tightened all the way down, so I don't need to overdo it, or it'll make it a lot harder to get back off. And so I'm going to leave it there, and so we're done with the filter. Now we need to get back up underneath, and I'm going to go ahead and clean this filler neck here. Don't want any debris or anything getting into the top of the motor. That's the O-ring that goes in the cap. It was just stuck on the filler neck. I'm just going to go in these threads real quick here and just clean this out. And then I'm going to take the gasket and just put it back here in the cap. Just make sure it's pressed all the way down. And that's what seals against the top of the filler neck, from the cap to the filler neck. Clean this off real good. So that's all cleaned up and ready to go. Like I said, we'll just get back up underneath, and oops, that was bound to happen. Hopefully that didn't go in an oil pan. That was close. Thankfully it got caught in the skid plate. So don't take your skid plate off. Your oil filler cap might fall in your full old oil pan. So here's my torque wrench, and as I mentioned before, we want to get this to 30 foot-pounds. So if the camera will cooperate, there's 30 right there. So we're just going to undo this lock ring and then just spin this up until right at 30 we're at 0. So there's 30 at 0, so that's 30 foot-pounds, and that's the setting that we want to put this drain plug back on. So we're back up underneath here, and as you can see, the oil is pretty much just completely stopped draining. I'm just going to clean the surface right here. Now I'm going to hear a lot about this from the crush washer police, that I need to get another crush washer. I'm not going to replace the crush washer because it is not tore up or damaged or bent in. So sometimes they take on the shape of the bolt, but I'm not going to do that right now. So I'm just going to plug this back up in here, hand tighten this, and then get my 14mm socket on my torque wrench, and we're gonna tighten this down until you hear the click is the key to this. Hear that click? That means it's done, so don't go further, don't keep pushing after it clicks. That's 30 foot-pounds. And I'm just gonna dry that off a little bit with the rag here. If you don't clean the oil off, if you dripped any, if you come back later and see drips of oil on the concrete underneath your vehicle, you might think you accidentally got a leak somehow, but we're pretty much done under here, so we can go back up and start filling the oil now. Now don't forget that you got to take that bottle out. If you had a bottle up underneath here, you want to take that out. Don't leave that in there on accident, because that'll probably end up in the fan. Now I've got a half a quart here, and I've also got a 5-quart jug. So I'm going to start and put this whole 5-quart jug in and use my funnel just to try to not make a mess. And that's all we're going to do. We're just going to fill the oil up. Now, if you've ever opened these before, they have the seal in the top right here. There's just this aluminum foil seal, and you just want to break that. So usually I just kind of punch a knuckle into the top of it, kind of pry that foil out of the way. And now I can start filling. So just to double check before you start, we got the filter in place, we're good. We've got that drain bolt back in, so the system's sealed up now, and we can start filling the oil. And we're just trying to not make a mess is all. We know we need 5.5 quarts. It's a little bit less if you don't change the filter out. They actually say you don't have to replace as much, because not as much is going to come out if you don't take the filter out. But technically, in my case, the filter itself drained out almost completely just by opening up the filler cap and opening up the dipstick. I think it just takes away any kind of vacuum, and so all the oil came out. So I'm not really sure it'd make too much of a difference. I don't know what their spec is. Maybe it's 0.1 quarts or something. You know, if you do it with the filter, if you change the oil and the filter, you're supposed to do 5.5 quarts. If you just do an oil change and don't do your filter, then maybe it's 5.4 quarts or something. You know, the difference is minimal. But typically most manufacturers have that listed. Whether it's a motorcycle or a vehicle, it'll have oil change with filter and then oil change without doing the filter. But I've never changed just the oil. I've always changed the oil and filter at the same time. So we've got 5 quarts in now. And I'm just keeping the old jug. If you keep the old jug, then you can just drain your old oil into the jugs to take into somewhere like AutoZone or Advanced Auto, or somewhere that takes the used oil. So I'm going to keep the jug. Now what we can do, just to see where we're at with adding 5 quarts, we can check the oil dipstick and just see where it's reading right now. So I'm just going to take this out, clean it up real good on the way out, and we'll see where we're at just with adding the 5 quarts. Make sure you push that dipstick all the way down until it stops. Just giving it a second for that oil to get into the up on the dipstick. And let's see where we're at. So just from putting that oil in, it's wet to here. You can see there's dry area on there, so that means it's not completely up to there, but it's just over that dot right now. Now the oil hasn't really had a good chance to settle. It'll settle more, but I know I can add at least that extra half a quart. So I'm going to leave this out since I've got it clean for now. And we'll add this extra half a quart. Now another thing you can do is, and I always do this too, I just run the vehicle, I turn it on, let it run for a while, in case there's any air pockets or anything that the oil needs to get up to. But the main thing is you're just not getting to the point where you're overfilling the oil, and you don't want to leave it low. So my Avalon actually takes 6.5 quarts. It's a 3.5 liter V6, and it takes 6.5 quarts of oil. And the Tacoma, which is a 4.0 liter, takes 5.5. So for some reason that Avalon needs another extra quart. All right, let's get this dipstick back in and see what we're reading. And then I'm gonna hop in the truck and turn it on and let it run. And right before we do that, I'll go through and show you how to reset the oil change indicator light. So it's maintenance required. It's not the little, it's not the light that actually looks like an engine. That's actually like a check engine light, meaning there's some kind of code or something that's wrong and you need to get that checked out. You need to get somebody to use a scanner and check that out. But this is not the engine symbol. This one says, it's not maintenance required spelled out, it's MAINT REQD, so it's short for maintenance required, and that's just the oil change indicator light. And I'll show you how to reset that in a minute. Let's get the dipstick back out and check on it, just see where we're at. Alright, so now it's wet up to right here. It's kind of hard to see there in the reflection, but so it's about halfway in between the two right now. And I'll show you what difference it makes with running it, getting the oil hot and letting it drain real well to the bottom. So let's go inside and get that indicator light switched off and start up the truck and let it run for a while. Of course, I'm not gonna leave this open. I'm gonna put the oil filler cap back on like that. All right, now we'll go inside. So to reset the oil indicator light in my 2011 Toyota Tacoma, the directions are showing that you need to put the key in. You need to turn the key forward to on. You need to make sure that your dash is set to odometer, and then turn the key back off. And then you want to hold this reset button in over here for the trip. So that's the trip reset button there. You hold that in, turn the key back forward to on, and then you're just supposed to wait until the odometer light goes to 0 or flashes or something. So this is just following exactly what it says in the manual. And so far we're getting nothing. So I'm not sure what would have changed. But we're going to back out. I'm going to stop doing this. And instead, we're going to turn the key forward. We're going to switch this to trip A. So now it says trip A. We're going to turn the key back off. Then we're going to hold this button in. And then we're going to turn the key forward. Now that is what the dash lights did in my Avalon to reset. So now the maintenance required light is off. So the manual, I want to point out, is actually incorrect. The procedure that we went through before didn't actually work. And as I mentioned before, I'm just going to start this up. And I'm just going to let this run for a little while. Let the operating temperature over here, it's on cold right now, so I'm going to let that operating temperature start going up and just get the engine a chance to run the oil through. And then we'll go back and just last second before we're completely finished, we'll check that oil level dipstick again and just see where it's sitting at. And if we need to, we'll top it off. Right now it's got 5.5 quarts in it, so hopefully that'll be exactly what we need. If not, we'll just add a little bit more. I've got another quart, so we're good to go on that. Well, that wraps up the oil change for today. We've got everything done now. I've got the oil in, I've got everything buttoned up, got the dipstick back in, I've got the oil filler cap back on, new oil filters in, we got all the new oil in, we got that drain bolt snugged back in with that 14mm socket to 30 foot-pounds on the torque wrench. And so I'm probably going to go ahead and just stop this video, wrap this up, and probably hop in the cab real quick, pop that glove compartment open and replace the cabin filter. If you haven't replaced your cabin filter, you might want to make sure you check on that. I believe that's probably the most common reason that people have issues with their blower motor going out, is that the cabin filter gets so full of debris. For whatever reason, these vehicles suck in debris from outside, so you get a bunch of garbage. I've had little bits of pine straw, material that obviously mice or something have put in there. I've also had bits of acorn pieces and stuff that falls from the trees around where the truck is sitting get into that cabin filter. So we'll go ahead and swap over and start working on that job. And before you leave this video, please take the time to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Again, subscriptions are most important for the channel, so please make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.